Good evening. Well, it might be morning for you, but it's evening for me right now. So I'm going to say good evening and good morning and good afternoon. Good whenever time you hear this. Uh, Today's sermon is going to be titled, Why Do We Have to Be Nice to Old Men? Um, and why do we have to be nice to old men? And this is based on a verse that I came across a few weeks ago, and it is in First Timothy chapter 5, 1 Timothy 5:1. And I'll read a little bit past there too. It says, "Do not sharply rebuke an older man, but rather appeal to him as a father, to younger men as brothers, the older women as mothers, and the younger women as sisters in all purity." So we have to be especially nice to old men. Is that what Timothy is saying? Now, Timothy is an old man. Maybe that's why he's writing this. He's writing it to Paul is the older man. He's writing this to Timothy, a younger man. Um, and it's kind of jumped out at me as kind of an interesting statement. And it's certainly in the context of Paul teaching Timothy um, a couple of specific ways to deal with different kinds of people. But he says, especially, do not sharply rebuke an older man. Do not attack. Do not aggressively um, rebuke and say, "Hey, old man, you're wrong." Um, and I just kind of was thinking about this and what does this mean? And does this have any relevance with people other than old men, or is this one verse just about old men? And so I'll like to go through a few verses and see if we can figure out the broader the broader relevance of this verse. I mean, we have old men in the church. You probably know old men. I feel like I'm getting closer to a old man every day. A lot of people have called me an old man. Um, Proverbs 21. Proverbs 21. Proverbs 21, verse 23 says, "He who guards his mouth and his tongue guards his soul from troubles. He who guards his mouth and his tongue guards his souls from trouble." Right? This isn't the only verse in the Bible that talks about the tongue and how important it is for us to control our tongue, for us to think about what we say, to carefully consider the words before we throw them out and attack people. Now, nowadays, instant communication, people feel something and they type it up and put it on the internet. Or, in the old days, way old days, right? If people were upset with their friend, they would write them a letter. First, they would have to get a piece of paper. They would have to find a piece of paper. They would have to sit down. They would have to carefully write it out. It would take a few minutes. They have to put it in an envelope. They have to address the envelope, put the stamp on, and they probably wait a little while before they saw the mailman to give it to them. Okay, so they had a long time to think about before they actually put the letter in the mail to get to their friends. Okay, they have times to say, "Whoa, maybe I shouldn't say that to my friend." Okay, now where it's technology has enabled us to say things to people more rapidly. I mean, I guess we've always been able to talk to people in person really quickly, but I do think sometimes it's even easier maybe to let our tongues go wild. Um, but the Bible says in many places, including Proverbs 21, that we really need to be careful about the words that come out of our mouth. Um, Because if we don't control them, it's dangerous. The words that Paul is talking about here are attacking harshly. Okay, and why do we attack people harshly? Why do people? Why do so many people around us, in our families, in our workplaces, in on the web, everywhere? It seems like you see a lot more people harshly attacking people than not. So why are we always attacking people? Why is everybody always fighting? Well, it's part of our sinful nature. It's a reflection of our selfishness, our desires for ourselves, right? 1 John 2:15. We'll start at verse 15. 1 John 2:15. Do not love the world nor the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life is not from the Father, but it is from the world. The world is passing away, and also its lusts, and the one who does the will of the Lord lives forever. Right? We live in a world where pride and greed and judgment and jealousy swirling all around us. Okay, and so if we are attacking our enemies, attacking those people different from us, attacking, okay, rebuking people in an aggressive way, okay, we may, if we're not watching out, be demonstrating a worldly spirit, not one of the fruits of the Spirit. Okay, aggressively attacking your enemies is not one of the fruits of the Spirit. They're love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, those type of things. Not aggressively attacking people. And yet people do. Okay, yet we let our emotions. People let their emotions get the best of them, and we as Christians often let emotions get the best of us. We often overestimate how rational we are and say if everybody was just as rational and logical as us. But it's hard to conquer our emotions. It's hard to keep our emotions in check. But we're commanded to have self-control. We're commanded to express self-control. Matthew 5:9, a verse that I'm sure we're familiar with in the Beatitudes. Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons of God." Blessed are the peacemakers. Instead of the peace destroyers, okay, we're to be the peacemakers, okay? We need to have our tongues in check. We need to be in control of our emotions and of our mouths so that we can make peace rather than make rebellion. And it says that those who make peace, who are the peacemakers, will be called the sons of God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. Do you want to be a son of God? A daughter of God? Right? What does that mean? It means an heir to God, an inheritor, a member of his kingdom, a valued member of his kingdom, and is member of the royal family, right? As Christians, we want to be adopted into the kingdom of God, right? And to do that, we need to be peacemakers, right? And you think about Jesus. Jesus was literally the Son of God. He's of the line of David, and I was trying to think about, you know, is Jesus ever described as a warrior, or is he more often described as a shepherd? There's a lot of different references to farmers, but there's references to soldiers and athletes in the New Testament, right? But Jesus is most often described as a shepherd, okay? And shepherds don't go in there battling their sheep, right? Yelling at their sheep, sheep, you better get over here, you better stop eating whatever the farmers stuff that you're not supposed to be eating. Okay, I think it's kind of interesting, right? It's in the line of David, a great king. Jesus is mostly not a fighter. All right, except right, Jesus said Jesus is not a fighter. There's so many examples of Jesus being not a fighter, except when he did fight, right? Wait a second, we better take a look at John 2. Okay, look at one of the verses. You say, oh, well, Paul said, don't rebuke, right, old men. Don't attack old men harshly. But let's look at John 2. John 2. Oh, starting in verse 13. And the Passover of the Jews was near, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. And he found in the temple those who were selling oxen and sheep and doves, and the money changers seated at their tables. And he made a scourge of cords, and drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen. And he poured out the coins of the money changers, and overturned their tables. And those who were selling doves, he said, take these things away. Stop making my Father's house a place of business. His disciples remembered that it was written, zeal for your house will consume me. Okay. Jesus must have not have yelled at the old men that were here, right? Because Paul said to Timothy, don't rebuke the old men. Don't be too harsh with them. But it sounds like Jesus was kind of harsh, right? Did he rebuke them? Do you think Jesus was being loud and angry when he said, take these things away? Stop making my Father's house a place of business, as he was chasing them with a whip? I'm thinking that was pretty rebuking. I'm thinking that that's pretty aggressive. Okay, so did Paul disagree with Jesus? I think that the Bible is pretty consistent, okay? And I think that if we look at these and think about them a little more carefully, maybe we can get a better understanding, a clear understanding of why what Jesus did was right, and yet how the advice that Paul gave Timothy was also right. So Paul, right, when he's talking to Timothy, well, you know what? Let's start with Jesus. When Jesus goes in there and drives out the people doing business, okay, the corrupt business of ripping people off in a place where they weren't supposed to be doing business, okay, dishonoring God, was Jesus's priority to explain to those businessmen the gospel? Was Jesus's priority on that day to convert people? I don't think it was, okay? Because I'm pretty sure nobody heard the gospel when they were running away from Jesus with his whip, okay? And there's other times that Jesus is very harsh towards the Pharisees, who I'm pretty sure were mostly old men, okay? Some of the things that Jesus did were teaching people around him, but not necessarily aimed at convincing the Pharisees. I mean, some of the Pharisees might have been convinced when they heard Jesus talking against their practices, but I don't think that's the main priority. I think that Well, I mean, Proverbs 15, right? Proverbs 15:1, okay, says something that we know is true, right? Proverbs 15:1 says, "A harsh answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." Sorry, did I say that right? A gentle answer turns away wrath. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger, right? You may have seen this, okay? One person is really angry, and person A is angry, he attacks person B, and rather than person B responding and causing a fight, right? Person B is like, "Oh, I didn't know that was a problem." Okay? And what does that do to the anger of person A? Can diffuse that anger, right? Um, a gentle word, okay, can diffuse, okay, neutralize the aggression, the anger of another person. Okay, not always, but that is a real power that somebody with self-control and discipline and gentleness, okay, can better deal with an angry person than somebody who is angry, has no control over their tongue. All right. And so you say, well, Jesus didn't go in there with gentle words. Okay. Pretty sure the words that he had for those people were harsh. Okay. If we look at all of the stories that that we know that Jesus is talking to an individual that he's trying to teach, whether he's trying to talk to the woman at the well or whoever, right? Jesus always um, speaks in a way that they are open to hearing. Okay, Jesus often spoke in a gentle, understanding way to those people that he was teaching at that moment. Okay, in a patient way. Okay, um, and that's not what he's doing when he goes into the temple, which leads me to think again that that wasn't the people he's chasing out were not his primary his teaching them was not his primary motivation at that point in time. Okay. Whereas when we look at uh, Timothy, okay, when Paul, back in Timothy, the verse we looked at the beginning, okay, Timothy's main priority is to teach and help the old men, teach and help the younger men and the women in his church. Okay. Which is why Paul says, don't be too harsh in your rebuking of those people. All right. I just did a little quick Googling on how to change people's minds. All right. And you know what? Nothing surprising. Okay. From the Harvard Business Review a couple of months ago. Okay. Tell me if this jives with what the Bible says. Okay. What the Bible teaches about dealing with people. Okay. It says, step one, invest time, establish a personal relationship, build rapport, and then understand the person's perspective. Okay? If you do those things, invest time, establish a personal relationship, build rapport, okay? Make a relationship, make a connection, and then understand that person's perspective. Guess what? That is the point that you can tell them something and they will listen to you. And you can say it in a word that they are open, in a way that they're open to. And you can say it in a way that they will understand. Okay? That's what psychology and business and all of the studies I've done have shown. Okay? And I think that's what Paul is getting at with Timothy. Okay? That, if you're talking to somebody that's set in their ways, somebody that has lived a long time. Now, maybe you're 18 years old and you think somebody that's lived 27 years is an old man and has lived a long time, okay? And they have, okay? 27 years, that's a long time, right? A lot of people are stuck in their ways, okay? So I know any of us that have parents, right? Try to tell your parents what to do. I mean, come on. We're adults, right? Our parents should listen to us, except that our parents have also been living 20 or 30 years longer than us, right? So if you ever try to tell your parents, hey, you're doing it wrong, right? They don't want to listen. And honestly, I, why should they listen? They're so much older than us, okay? Um, you don't yell at your parents to tell them to change. You don't yell at somebody older than you and tell them to change. You can't. That's not how you convince somebody to change. Okay? You need to establish relationship, build rapport, understand that person's perspective. Okay? That's wisdom. That's worldly wisdom. That's the wisdom of God. That's just plain wisdom. And that's what Paul is telling to Timothy, right? Um, let's go back there. See if my little papers fell out or if I still got them. Okay. Do not sharply rebuke an older man, but rather appeal to him as a father. Okay. Use some wisdom, Timothy. Use some wisdom. Okay. Appeal to him. Think about who you're talking to. You're talking to an older man. So talk to him like you would talk to your father. I'm assuming Timothy had a good relationship with his father, right? Excuse me. Appeal to a younger man as a brother. Okay? Think about who the person is that you're talking to. Okay? Probably treat your brother or your sister differently than you treat your parents. You don't talk to them the same way, probably. If you want to talk to somebody about the gospel, think of who they are. Think of what kind of relationship you have with them. Think about, are they older? Are they younger? Are they the same age as you? As older women as mothers, as younger women as sisters. Okay? He's saying, you use some wisdom, right? You know, the Bible tells us we're supposed to be like snakes, right? It says we're supposed to be innocent as doves and wise as serpents. Okay? Paul's telling Timothy, have some wisdom when you talk to people. Have some wisdom when you teach them. Have some wisdom when you correct them, when you rebuke them. There's other verses that say we are supposed to correct our brothers and sisters. Okay? There's other verses that say to rebuke them. Okay? But evidently, the Bible is suggesting that we do it in a careful, thoughtful way. We consider our emotions, we consider our words, we hold our tongue, we think of who they are, and we do this wisely. Okay? We need to make sure that we're not acting dumb, that we're not dumb in how we share the truth with a non Christian or how we confront a Christian. Okay? We shouldn't be dumb and get in the way of God's message. Okay? So, takeaway. I think this is good advice when dealing with an old man or an old woman or a young man or a young woman. Okay? Think about who they are. Think about the proper way to address them. Keep your emotions in mind. Keep control of your tongue. And really use the wisdom that God gave you. If you don't think you have enough, definitely should pray for some because God promises you more. I think my computer just did something funny, but I don't know if it's listening to me. All right. I hope that this has given you some things to think about and will help you dealing with all the people you come in contact with, no matter how old they are. All right. Have a good night or a good morning or a good afternoon whenever you listen to this. Thanks for listening.